my review of Gamera, Attack of Legion. Now, this is the sequel to Gamera Guardian of the Universe, if anyone's keeping track here, and I imagine anyone probably watching these videos is. This is the second movie in the Hesei Gamera series, and a lot of people say this is an improvement over Gamera Guardian of the Universe, and I don't necessarily think so. And I'll get to that in a minute, but first I want to address the fact that in my previous video, and this really just does show a lack of editing skills, or really revision after I've completed the video, but I actually didn't really state why I didn't like Gamera Guardian in the Universe all that much, or as much as other people did at least. And that's not really so detrimental, in fact, because a lot of the problems I think carry over to this movie. And I guess I'll get to that in time. But to start off, Gamera Attack of the Legion here is, well, do I really need to say what it's about at this point? It's Gamera, Mother Monster pops up. What more do you really need to know at this point? Legion itself is an interesting creature. It's an interesting beast, or beasts if you will. It's kind of this infestation, which is an interesting concept, and there's actually really cool things that they do with this concept earlier on in the movie, despite the slow pacing of it. Again, slow in context. Slow pacing of the movie, there is some interesting ideas going on there, particularly the main monster itself doesn't even really show up until the climax. Otherwise, it's kind of these small little, like, helper monsters, so to speak, like, you know, at least like a bug colony. And there's one actually really great scene at the beginning, fantastic if I may say, is that when the Gamera is attacking one of these colonies, all of the little creatures, like hundreds of them, that just scurry up onto Gamera and start biting him, making small little incisions in him. It is a brutal scene, and I was actually looking forward to seeing more of that, to be perfectly honest. Later in the movie, when the titular Legion does show up, it is another giant monster, and I know what you're thinking. A giant monster wouldn't be a giant monster without two giant monsters really fighting, at least in Godzilla or Gamera's case. But at the same time, it would have been a nice change for the formula to have these small creatures. I mean, maybe there would be more interaction between the small creatures and Gamera. I realize it probably is a lot more difficult, but at the same time, it's just a lot really more interesting possibilities to it. While Legion itself is a cool creature, and I really shouldn't be talking about this because I'm really getting out of order here, he just isn't as striking as I think he might necessarily be otherwise if he was introduced in a different fashion. Getting out of that though, the human characters in this movie, somewhat interesting actually, in that while a good portion of the characters are new, a few characters from the previous movie also show up. That's one thing I did want to address that I really loved in Attack of the Legion here, is that there's a sense of continuity between these movies, so much so that Tokyo Tower is still destroyed from the last movie, and that's still under construction. I thought that was kind of funny, frankly. And there's one character at the beginning of the movie who's like the scaredy cat in the last movie. He makes a return in this movie and manages to get himself in another situation where he's like, "Oh fuck, I gotta run." And that was really cute. I really liked that. It didn't establish an enormous amount of character ties, per se, but any character that really played a specific role in the last movie is mentioned, referenced, or at least implied in this movie to a degree, and that I've really enjoyed. I'm really looking forward, particularly to the third Gamera movie in this series, which I'm hoping to receive in a couple weeks, and if I don't, it's going to have to wait to the Blu-ray, but I hope a couple weeks. Going to get Revenge of Iris. It's the third movie in the Hesei series. Anyway, though, like I said, characters I did enjoy. Overall, not particularly endearing, but that sense of continuity was really nice. I can't really say too much more about them. Like most giant monster movies, you really don't care a whole lot for them. And that, I gotta say, is actually one of the main movie's faults of both Gamera Guardian of the Universe and Attack of Legion, in that I didn't really care about much of the characters. Guardian Universe established somewhat of a repertoire with them, and that you at least gave a shit about them, but you didn't really like them per se. And Attack of the Legion is almost a little more cold, if that makes any sense. If the story progresses in a logical fashion, as I think it will in the third movie, then I think all of these movies could be seen as a larger whole and really work together to create a actually surprisingly good story. But otherwise, I really don't have too much to say about the characters. Story itself, a little slow paced at the beginning, even though I love miniature suit work that is kind of brought down to size, the human size. There was some really good of that. There was some really good kind of animatronics going on here. I like when giant monster movies have creatures in them also that are not enormous. And that's one of the reasons I was disappointed actually that there was not more interaction with the Legion rather than Legion, the humongous creature. They did the same thing in Godzilla vs. Biollante with the smaller creatures, and Godzilla vs. Destoroyah with the smaller portions up of him. And I enjoyed that, and it's not really done too great per se, but I like the sense of scale that that can bring to a story when you have these small creatures and you're switching to this enormous thing. It really brings a sense of the scale of the conflict into the movie. Overall, though, the effects were actually quite fantastic in this. Unlike Gamera Guardian of the Universe, there was really not very many unbelievable effects. Particularly, one strikes out. One reminds me of when Gyros is flying through the sky, and Gamera is chasing him, and you just see him kind of extended like this, and it's just a green screen in the background. It didn't ruin the movie. Don't get me wrong. It's a very short scene, but there is nothing like that in Attack of the Legion. There may be one quick scene in the subway when some of the smaller suit work isn't quite as convincing, but otherwise really fantastic. I'm actually really quite surprised at the level of effects work in this movie. Really fantastic. They did put a lot of effort into it. All the giant creature looks very convincing. Any of the horde creatures look surprisingly convincing. And overall, I was very impressed with it. One thing I do need to say, though, in retrospect, actually, is that the cinematography for this movie needs to be mentioned in that there are some very odd choices. Particularly, there's a couple scenes in the movie where the camera will just go to freeze frame and there'll be noise in the background for about 5 or 10 seconds, and then that's it. And then it goes back to the regular movie. And there's use of fast motion in this movie too. And these two things are back to back, and it's just not good. Like, you can't do that. It just looks cheap. It just looks really cheap. One thing I did actually need to mention too is that the costuming in this movie for the humans is a little less 90s. People don't really love bright primary colors, and I hate that about the 90s. It seems even more ridiculous to me than the overblown 80s costumes. But definitely they're more drab per se. But it was easier on my eyes, so I prefer that. Lastly, the soundtrack in this movie is something I really don't have a whole lot to say about because, frankly, I did not notice a whole lot. It was appropriate for the movie, particularly Legion's theme was interesting. Otherwise, what can I say? Typical Gamera heroic music is actually carried over from Guardian of the Universe, or not carried over, but at least influenced to a heavy degree to the point where it's almost not really discernible. And that was good music, so can't really say anything about it. Otherwise, I have to give the soundtrack an average score. Just, it's good. It worked. Overall, though, Gamera Attack of the Legion is an interesting movie for a lot of reasons. It suffers from a couple of weird cinematographic issues and pacing in particular. I thought this movie was kind of a slog at times. But overall, it's a really interesting story that carries through these two movies in particular. Attack of the Legion has some great suit work, both big and small. Characters that carry over. The sense of continuity between these two movies is especially really interesting to watch. If you've watched Gamera Guardian of the Universe, you definitely got to check out Gamera Attack of the Legion. And what better way to pick it up? Honestly, just order Mill Creek Entertainment's double feature Blu-ray. It's completely featureless, and frankly, it doesn't even have a menu outside of the selection of the movie. Thank God it's not double-sided discs. I fucking hate those things. But overall, it's a great package still. The actual HD video for it is surprisingly good. There's a few errors in the subtitles, but they're mostly overlooked. In fact, the quality of the transfer itself, as well as the audio, and may I say the price. I mean, I got it for what, $12.99? It's insane. I really do hope they release Revenge of Iris. They said they have. One of my commenters has told me that they will, and he was right. I just didn't look at that part of the article. Sometime in 2011, though, is a long time to wait, so either Shout Factory better get on releasing Gamera vs. Zygra and Gamera Super Monster, or Mill Creek better release Revenge of Iris. Or, like I said, hopefully I can get Revenge of Iris in a couple weeks. Sorry for the delay between videos, guys. Kind of just finishing up Christmas shopping, Christmas decorations. I have 2 reviews still in the works, and this may be damning myself because I shouldn't say this. I have Chronicles of Narnia and Harry Potter. God knows how late both of these are. Until then, Thanks for watching, guys.